Hey, what's going on there, folks? Good evening. It is the Earthmaster back here on this end of the weekend. It is Sunday, December 3rd, 2023. It is about 9:15 here, California time. Latest earthquake looks like a 1.5 down here in Southern California. We did see a little bit of activity ramping up here across areas of the Pacific Plate and into the Middle America Trench. But for the most part, all the activity here has been jumping up here in the Philippines area. So let's take a look and see what's going on here in this area of the Philippines. So this is the last couple days here. We're looking at about 146 earthquakes in total. That's quite the significant number of earthquakes out here, with the main quake being a 7.6, and we've seen a secondary large quake as an aftershock, a 6.9 that occurred earlier around noontime, my time here, local time. And of course, a couple sixes earlier this morning as well. So folks kind of wondering what's going on here with the Philippines area. We did check out last night the potential of some large damaging earthquakes above the 7.0 threshold. They've seen some 8-pointers out here, 8.3, 8.1. It's been I think it's been around 100 years or so since we've seen an 8-pointer out here, specifically in this area. But the plate dynamics are set up here to where we could see something like that happen. But the thing is, it's all got to do with time. I think if we don't see anything happen overnight, then we can pretty much exclude anything larger happening in the near future, as far as the remainder of our days here following this large-scale activity. There's a percentage, obviously, after a main quake, similar to what we've seen in Japan, right? Remember that 9.1 back in 2011? They've seen a similar type event here with a lot of sixes and even a couple upper sevens. And then a day later, we had a I think it was a 9.1. I don't see that happening. If it is going to happen, it would happen soon. I don't see this activity continuing for a couple days and then a 9-pointer happening a week later. It's not going to happen that way. More than likely, if it does happen, it's going to be probably within the next 12 hours or so. But let's look at the last couple earthquakes here that we've seen. It looks as though things may be calming down. They haven't calmed down completely. Definitely shaking things up out there in the Philippines. This is the latest information statement, or not information statement, but the live seismograph station here in the Philippines. And it is picking up quite nicely some of that earthquake activity there around the Philippines. It looks like 2059. I see some S waves coming in here to the Thailand station there. It looks like maybe that's from that 5.4. We'll look at the rest of the activity here in a little bit. So we got a 5.4 here in the last few minutes, 5.1, quite a few 4s and 5s stirred up. Not a lot of 6s. Not a lot of 6s at all. That 7.0 here, goodness, it almost looks like, let's see here. So was there 2 earthquakes? Was there 2 earthquakes today? Now, I'm a little uncertain. It is a weekend here. We got one earthquake registering a 6.9 earlier this afternoon, my time, and then a 7.0. Now, there is a little bit of difference here in terms of the location and also the time. So I'm rather kind of curious to see if this is actually a legit earthquake. Let me check something here real quick. Go back the last 7 days, check out the largest magnitudes. Okay, so it almost looks like that 7.0 is an earthquake, but it was a false earthquake. It got revised with a 6.9 here. Notice that when I pull up the last 7 days. When we look at the last 1 day of all magnitudes, it's still in there. So I believe they are replacing that 7-pointer with the 6.9, a little bit more localized here. Into the subduction zone, about 30 kilometers deep. So we'll see if they delete this event or not. That's where'd it go? You guys see that? Soon as I said, we'll see if they delete this event or not, and bam, it just disappeared off the map. Did you guys catch that? Hopefully you guys seen that. Oh man, I feel like I don't know what. a magician out here tonight. Okay, so either way, 7.0 has been magically removed here from the graph as I am speaking. And that just leads me to believe the USGS is kind of monitoring, but that's good. It's good to have the big folks there watching what's going on as well, right? I think in terms of the potential for larger scale movement out here is declining. I think we should have seen it this evening. I'm going to extend it another 12 hours or so. If we don't see something bigger than the main shake out here, I think we can pretty much assume here on facts of past large earthquakes and their time periods and whatnot with aftershocks and earthquakes that happen after a main quake, that we're not going to see anything bigger. And that is good news. Now, the 8.3 and 8-pointers out here that have happened throughout history in this area, well, hopefully we keep those at bay for a little longer. But I think this should die down. I don't think, for now anyway, we're going to see anything bigger kicking up here in this area. It is still quite active. Obviously, we see that on the map, on the graphs here. The S waves coming into various stations still let us know that it's awfully active out here in this region. And if you look, goodness, we have not seen any migration of pressure out here, at least on the USGS map. We did see some further buildup here across the eastern areas of the Philippine plate. Now, this is associated with the Philippine plate and the interaction over here around the Philippine Trench. A lot of this earthquake activity occurring into the Philippine Trench. This is where these big earthquakes take place. Subduction zones are capable of producing way above a 7.6 magnitude earthquake. And there's, they've had 8s out here. So I don't think we're going to see it, though. I'm hoping we don't. A little bit of deeper movement up here around the northern area, northern Mariana, Mog Islands, north of the Mariana Islands. That earthquake coming in 171 kilometers deep. So we're still looking at pressure coming in from the Pacific plate, adding to the further strain in this area. That's why we're continuing to see quite a few 5s, even those 6s earlier this afternoon. But we have not seen any momentum out here, pressure transfer in terms of migration out here across the area. It's a little odd. But I do believe you got to think about this, right? All this activity is relieving strain in one area. Basically, it's been built up here for a little bit, not a long time, but a little bit. And so now it's releasing a lot of earthquake activity underneath the strain. Well, that strain has to transfer somewhere, right? Right now, we're not seeing it transfer. I expect it, though, to transfer and go across the common areas out here where we look at the plate dynamics in terms of movement. Should be the Java Trench area up around here, maybe the Andaman Sea area. This region right here we should be watching that. But right now it's all center and localized around the Philippines. 5.4. Goodness, just a lot of earthquake activity out there. And that's generally where all the activity is at today. West Coast movement. Let's see what we got going on out here. A handful of earthquakes, but nothing big, right? 2.5 and above shows us not a whole lot. We got one 2.5 near the Pyramid Lake up in Nevada, but for the most part, activity here in California, just some microquake activity. No major swarming going on. This is very typical for California. I'm not seeing any elevated activity. And if you look at the rest of the globe here, Philippines, you're on the spotlight, and probably not the good spotlight right now. That's just a lot of earthquake activity, really. 185 earthquakes. Well, we got to zoom in here. 146 earthquakes. And I'm sure there's many more earthquakes here below the 4.0 threshold that the USGS uses. Pretty crazy. So let's watch tonight and see what happens. I say if we don't see anything major happen overnight, my night, right? Say I wake up in the morning and do an update, nothing happened. I think the likelihood of anything larger happening will be diminished even further, right? Got to think about time here. As time goes on, the likelihood of a major earthquake above the 7.6 magnitude, right? believe that's what it was right there. The likelihood of something coming up above that is definitely much slimmer. Now, yeah, this is their little tectonic summary that they put out here the day of the earthquake. The Philippine sea plate moves west-northwest at a velocity of about 103 mm per year with respect to the Sunda plate. And that's all reinforced by the Pacific plate, right? Kind of putting that strain over here on the Philippine plate, which is this little section here. You can see it. And there's subduction zones all over the place. Mariana Trench being one of them. A lot of strain being put on this little bitty plate here from the Pacific area. So 127 additional earthquakes of magnitude 6 or larger have occurred over the past 100 years. They don't, well, here we go. They mentioned 15 of these were M7 or larger. They don't want to scare people, right? See that they've had 8-pointers out here. I kind of discussed this in my earlier update. If you didn't check it out earlier, go check it out after this video. They have the potential, no doubt, of seeing some 8-pointers out there. But again, it's all about time frame. All right, let's see what's going on around the rest of the world here. Goodness, they're taking up so many of the earthquake multitudes out here. It's crazy. It looks like there's some movement down here in the Gulf of California, maybe a 4-pointer and a couple 3s. That is not showing up down here on the USGS map. Neither is the other 4-pointer here off the coast of Mexico. Looks like USGS is reporting one 4-pointer in the Guatemala area, 4.3. That was earlier this morning, though. So we are seeing a slight uptick here across this area of the Pacific plate, and also along the subduction zone of the Middle America Trench, which sits right offshore of Mexico, Guatemala area, and along the Cocos plate. Got the Nazca plate down here, the Cocos plate, very small one. South America region did see some activity as well. What is that big one down there? It looks like a 5-pointer stirring up in this area, pretty recent. USGS, though, reporting this as a, let's go to the newest quakes. I don't even know if they're reporting this newer quake here. They got a 4.3 from earlier this morning in Argentina, but what I see is a 5-pointer, much shallower there, hugging the earthquake 3D globe from recently. So definitely some activity stirring up in this area. 5.1 over here, is that right? Is that correct? Goodness. Let's see what's going on here. I'm going to bring this up on the EMSC side, see what's going on with the earthquake map here. Now, the earthquake 3D globe gets its data from the EMSC and also the USGS. Now, it looks as though there was a 4.8 over here around the Guadalupe region, Leeward Islands. That is showing up, though, as a 5.1 on the globe. Hopefully that will get revised, but it looks like there's definitely some activity stirring up here across this area of the Caribbean plate. We've been watching that pretty closely there with the earthquake activity over the last couple days or so around the Puerto Rico Trench specifically. There's that movement south of St. John's. This area, goodness, definitely capable of producing some large, sizable earthquakes as well. But for now, we're just dealing with some 4s and even that 5-pointer, it looks like, over here across the eastern area of the Caribbean plate. One earthquake up here in the Dominican Republic region, but that is on the western side here. Very extreme western side of the Puerto Rico Trench. It looks like things definitely trying to stir back up there. But there's key areas to watch here. There's not a whole lot going on outside of this area of the Philippines. And that's a little worrisome because it looks like, we'll continue to see those aftershocks come in on a continual basis. I think once this area decides to, pack up and compress, so to speak, following all this movement, we should see further migration across the Java Trench. It just kind of makes sense here or within the region. New Zealand area, a couple 3s down there. Nothing major going on, it looks like, for now. Let's go check out the big island of Hawaii. It's not out in the Atlantic. It's over here in the Pacific. So Loihi Seamount. Goodness, what's going on down here? A couple earthquakes. 41 kilometers deep, though. That's way down there. There's a 15-kilometer deep, 2.5. Got to watch this. Obviously, the Hawaiian Islands, hotspot area. As the Pacific plate moves to the northwest, we will see the Hawaii Islands continue to develop new land. That's way in the future, though. I don't think anybody has to worry about that. But way in the future, we'll see these islands diminish, and new islands will be formed here as the Pacific plate continues at the northwest movement. We've seen that throughout time here. Pretty visible out there on the topography here of this map. Let's go in and check out the tilt meter at the Kilauea volcano. Now, that's been going up and down, and it's been going up more than it has gone down here recently. So I just want to take a peek here and see what's up. Kind of, it's doing what it's supposed to do here. The last 2 days here show deflation, and the trend over the last couple months has shown a few days of inflation followed by at least a couple days here of deflation, and that's kind of what we're looking at right now. Although this last event of inflation has been fairly elevated and at its highest level in about 5 years since the last 2018 eruption there at Kilauea volcano. That's not the last time that it erupted. Obviously, we've seen it since then, but confined there to the lava lake area. But definitely, I expect this probably to continue through tomorrow before we see maybe a gradual uptick again above the previous levels, as what has been shown here in the past couple months on the graph. But for now, it's a waiting game in that area. The Iceland volcano activity, that's another waiting game, isn't it? Got about 37 earthquakes. That's not a big deal around the area of Iceland, north of Grindavik, around the Hagafell area. But things look like they're calming down here once again. Well, I shouldn't say they've upticked here in the past couple days. They've been relatively calm. Now, the Icelandic Meteorological Office here has yet to produce an update. But I think if things continue to die down, we'll see less updates from them. We'll check back here tomorrow morning, because the last update was a couple days ago. All right, let's see what else we got here across the world. Yellowstone. I want to see if we see any of these large earthquakes taking place out there. Now, I know on the previous day we did see that 7-pointer kick up here. We've seen 8s and 9-pointers kick up here. The larger the earthquake, the more prominent it's going to show up there. This is at 7.6 that kicked off the big-time earthquake activity there in the Philippines. That showed up pretty nicely in Yellowstone, thousands of miles away on the opposite side of the world. That just goes to show you how sensitive this equipment is. Right now, it looks like some of those 6-pointers that Philippines have been having here over the last 24 hours has shown up, but notice that it's not quite as intense as that 7.6. So when you get those 7.6 and larger, they show up drastically across all the world seismograph stations. But for now, obviously these magnitudes are correct in terms of the authenticity of the data that's being put out here from the USGS and the other monitoring stations. But far as seismic activity goes, Yellowstone looks pretty quiet in terms of local movement out here. Not a whole lot going on. All right, what else we got? There's that one earthquake down in South Sandwich Trench, 5.1 from earlier. Let's see here. Aside from that, pretty quiet out here in the Atlantic. Mediterranean region, a couple smaller earthquakes out here, but generally quiet. It doesn't look quite as active as what we have seen. Right now, all eyes on the Philippines. Again, I think next 12 hours will give us a little glimpse here of either a larger scale movement earthquake or potentially migration of that pressure, which should in turn quiet down the activity out there. What do we got coming in here? Another 5.4 here, 21:15. Looks like about 15 minutes ago. That's going to be this earthquake right here, it looks like. So definitely, keep an eye on this area. We'll see what happens by the morning time frame. Space weather activity. Here's another one that's going on. We are expecting what looks like a G2 class storm tonight. Detailed forecast here shows December 4th time frame, UTC, at 6 to 1200 time frame. So right now it's December 4th in the UTC time at almost 600. So we're at 0536. So roughly within about 25 minutes or so to the next 6 hours, we should see things kick back up. It's still kind of early, but here, say next 7 hours or so, we should see elevated space weather conditions kicking up here to the G2 class storming category, and that is due in relation to a CME that it's a coronal hole basically that has been facing the Earth pretty nicely there, right? We see this quite often. A lot of people thinking, oh man, there's a hole in the sun. Well, coronal holes are very common. This is just one of the bigger ones that we've seen here recently. So that does produce some high-speed solar wind stream and charged particles in our direction. And in turn, that does kick up the space weather conditions here on this planet. As far as flaring activity goes, well, that's another story. It looks as though things are starting to die down, continually to die down. I'm watching one little region down here. Let's see if it's got a name yet. 3511 looks like one of the newest named sunspots here on the Earth-facing side. Does show a little bit of sharp complexity here. Notice those colors if you look really close, indicating some magnetic structure and complexity within that core. All other sunspots here look fairly stable. And there's not a whole lot coming around the eastern limb of the sun for now. Overall threat, 99% chance for a C flare, M flare at 30, and the X flare probability around 5% chance or so. And we'll just continue to watch that. Again, if you have clear skies out there and you're staying up late, pending you don't have to work on a Monday morning, I would definitely stay awake, potentially for this G2 class storm expected over the next 7 hours. Storm Prediction Center out here in terms of severe weather, well, there's not a whole lot. And I want to look at the numerical models here. Long-range models that give us a good indicator, maybe where some storms will be coming in, some precipitation. It looks as though finally we got a little bit of rainfall coming in here to Northern California as we head into about midweek here coming up. Wednesday and Thursday, maybe looks like a little bit of precipitation. Nothing big. I'm ready for something big coming in, but right now we have to deal with what we have. And that is followed up by some more Pacific storms there. Potential severe weather out here across areas of the Midwest and portions of the East Coast coming up as we head into next weekend. We'll get into that a little bit later. On the horizon, what do we have here as we set this into motion? Potentially a change here for the West Coast. Notice that. About December 18th or so, we're looking at a more southward tilt of the jet stream, allowing more storms to come into California. Over the past, 30 days or so, everything's been hammered up into the Pacific Northwest. They've been getting quite a bit of rainfall, but it's an El Nino year. Storm track, the Pacific jet should be aiming right at California, Northern California, southward. That includes Southern California and areas here across the southeast area. That could be a hint of the potential jet stream track aiming at here at California, and hopefully that will stay in effect here for the remainder of the winter. I would love to get storm after storm after storm. That would be awesome because we need the rainfall out here. Rainfall and water is life. What else is there, folks? I'm trying to think what else there is. I think that's about it. Welcome to the new subscribers. We've had probably about 600 subscribers join in the last 2 days, so that's a pretty significant number. Quite a new folks joining in on the channel as well, so we appreciate everyone jumping on board for factual information out here. I try not to fearmonger when I say that the 8-pointer possibility is out here. That's just because of past historical 8-pointer activity. I would never say that an 8-pointer has happened. Well, this is a little. Well, anywhere could basically have an 8-pointer, right? Even Yellowstone up here has seen some large earthquakes. But I try to look at the facts and historical data and put them out and present them to you guys. And go with percentages and possibilities in terms of numbers, right? And time frame. Keep an eye on the next 12 hours for the Philippines area. If we don't see anything larger occur tonight, I think we're pretty much out of the woods in terms of larger scale than the 7.6 that we've seen. Keep an eye on tonight, though. Right now, it's definitely shaking like crazy. And I do have that live seismograph station here. Let's see, where do we go here? I meant to bring it back down right about there, right? In the Philippines. Still some smaller earthquake activity. I can kind of see it there in the darker lines. But obviously anything above 5.0 and higher will show up on the seismograph station and potentially other stations if it's much stronger. Have a good night, folks. If you are not subscribed, jump on board, folks. We provide quite a few videos out here in the day and night on space weather activity, Earth-related events and whatnot, volcanoes. Hope to have you guys hit that subscribe button and hit that like button while you're here. Definitely appreciate it. We'll catch you guys back here tomorrow morning, Monday, with the complete update. Take care, folks.